How will the children of the Lightning McQueen are gonna look like? Are Mater and Holly gonna have a daughter? We definitely can't wait to see the next generation of Cars. We might actually see them in other Cars movies. So this time we asked ourselves, what would the children of the Cars characters be like? So get ready, because this time we bring you the children of the Cars in Disney Cars. First of all, we have to answer the next question. Can the characters in Disney Cars have children? Well, we know there's the possibility of Cars having children in the world of Disney Cars. We've actually seen a couple of them throughout the movies. We don't know exactly how they make that happen, so we'll leave that for our imagination. Let's start with Chick Hicks, the great rival of the Lightning McQueen. To be honest, he's so unbearable that he probably never found a partner, but that doesn't mean he couldn't have had children. He had so many fans that he would surely have left one out there somewhere. But what would it be like? Obviously, Chick Hicks is retired from racing, and he probably became an old car living in the past, so his son would reject him. The model of his son would be a Buick Enclave, which has little to do with being a race car. His name would be Bob, and he would be much quieter than his father, and would dedicate himself to being a sponsor and representative of a couple of racers. But that said, since Bob would hardly stand his father, but in the end, he would still have affection for him. Let's move on to Ramon and Flo.
I haven't seen a road like this in years.
Well then, let's cruise, baby!
Low and slow.
Ramon and Flo were the first official couple we met, and they are both cars with a lot of style, as Ramon is a low rider, a type of modified car that can raise and lower its suspension. He's also a master of painting and modification, and Flo is a car based on a first-generation Ford Thunderbird, and they were based on those flashy and cool cars that are used for car shows. If these two characters had children, only one car comes to mind, and that'll be a Ford Shelby Cobra, a car model that is perfect for modified car shows, and to which you could perfectly do a paint job in the pure Ramon style. Being Flo a mint-colored car and Ramon a car whose main color is purple, their son would be a blue car, with paint lines or flames, and this one would have to be called Romero, a name that well represents all of Ramon's culture. And he would have a quite extroverted personality, because he would always want to be the center of attention, coming from two parents who specialize in having a great style. Lightning McQueen and Sally. The Lightning McQueen is inspired by a Chevrolet Corvette, and something very curious is that there's already a Disney Cars car that could be his daughter, and that is Cruz Ramirez, as she's inspired by a model that perfectly mixes Lightning's styles and Sally's. But it is not exactly the combination of these two, because if we put the two cars together, such as McQueen and Sally, the result will be an elegant and fast car, and the car model that works to be the perfect combination is a Chevrolet Stingray, which is already very common to find in the color red. The name of his son would be Ali, and he would be a great race car driver, a fan of Doc Hudson, and he would earn the nickname Thunder, because he would be so good at racing that he would become as arrogant as his father when he was just starting to compete. But Ali's reputation would surely take him to the most important races in the world, and he would wear the number 95, with blue details, referring to the characteristic paint and color of his mother. Mater and Holly. Mater is one of the most peculiar characters in Cars, and we couldn't see a new generation without seeing his children. And I know it's very difficult to even imagine what they would be like, as Mater is a somewhat old-fashioned car model, and also rusty. But his love interest is the opposite, since Holly is an elegant and very modern car, so I would say that these two would have two children. On the one hand, they would have Molly, who would have a model inspired by a Ron Motors Scorpion, a quite elegant and agile car. Just like her mother, Molly would combine the colors of her bodywork, having purple on one side and light blue on the other side, as blue is Mater's original color. Molly would have a somewhat shy personality, but deep down she would be as playful as Mater, although at times she might clash a bit with her father, and she would also get along very well with Lightning's son, and she might even become interested in racing. And on the other hand, we have their son. He would look more like his father, being a powerful Ford 350 named Matt, made for rough work like his father, but not as rusty as him. He would be bright blue, and he would get along very well with everyone, being quite friendly, but still being as tough as Holly. And who knows, he might even start working alongside her on the world's most dangerous missions. Jackson Storm and Cruz Ramirez. It may be the most controversial point, but it seems like a great idea to unite these two characters in a romance, because they can go from rivals to a couple. And if we talk about the last generation of racing cars, these two would have to be there, as they are the most powerful cars in the entire Piston Cup, since they have the latest in technology. Their child would be a powerful race car, a prodigy of the Piston Cup, capable of running on any terrain, whether it's a forest or a beach. And the car model it'll be based on would be a Camaro ZL1 that has the latest in technology. His name would be Alonso Storm, and he would be Dinoco's heir, wearing the number 51 just like his mother. Alonso would use black as his main color, and he would have a calm but pushy personality like his father, but he would still be as ambitious and brave as Cruz Ramirez. Alonso would behave like the perfect rival to the arrogant Ali, and they would surely be the favorites of the Piston Cup. Tell us in the comments, which one would you support? Francesco Bernoulli, the fastest car in all of Italy. Francesco has one of the best designs, and it'll be really hard for him to find a partner. But we're lucky that he's one of the car's characters with the family, and we've already met his mother, so we know what kind of model his child could be. Maybe one so fast that it doesn't even exist 100%, and that would have to be the Bosch Menards IndyCar model. A car so fast that it could outperform anyone, and his name would be Valentino. He would wear the representative colors of his country, because like Francesco, they are very proud to be Italian. But without a doubt, Valentino would be much more competitive than his father. As being the newest version, he would have a much bigger ego, and surely both would make fun of the Lightning McQueen. And despite being very fast, Valentino would worry more about having fun. And he would get along very well with Mater, since both preferred to have a good time other than having an empty cup. Finally, we have Stanley and Lisi. We know they didn't have a child, but let's imagine they actually did. These two cars would be the only couple that are based on the same car model, a Ford Model T. Stanley is a TS and Lisi a T Coupe, so there wouldn't be much of a difference with their daughter. We imagine that in one of Ali's adventures, he would encounter a town that is not even on the map. He would realize it was founded by Dorothy, Stanley and Lisi's daughter. Actually, she would be a representation of Dory from Finding Nemo, because she would be all over the place, not able to concentrate in more than one thing. But still, one of the sweetest characters you could ever find in Disney cars. She would be based on a Ford Model A, the actual successor of the Model T. Alright friends, those were all the couples that we could find on Disney cars. Tell me, what do you think of this list? Do you have any other ideas for other characters?